Leadership Series on Internet Marketing. My name is James Duncan, USMA95, founder of Academy Connect. It's my privilege to be the moderator of tonight's webinar. This live webinar will offer a unique perspective on the intersection of counterinsurgency and digital marketing centered around social media and email marketing. West Point class of 2000 grad Sam Cook will explain the lessons he learned in Iraq that he's now applying in the field of Internet marketing. Sam will discuss his experiences in the famous Tal Afar campaign, where he served as the regimental adjutant for Colonel H.R. McMaster, and his experiences as a CAV troop commander in the surge in the Tigris River Valley in 2007 and 2008. Let me briefly give you tonight's format so you know what to expect. Sam will talk for about 30 minutes, and we'll open it up for a Q&A period to the entire group. You'll be muted during this talk, but we'll open it up afterwards. If you have a question that comes to mind during the webinar, you can utilize the chat function, send your question, or wait till the Q&A period. Thanks again for your time. A quick intro on Sam. Sam's a class of 2000, served as an armor officer for 13 years, company commander, deployed to Iraq during the surge. He was selected to teach at West Point in the Department of History. During graduate school at NYU, Sam started his first company, a New York tour company named Uncle Sam's New York. In 2010, he founded his current company, and this summer, our serial entrepreneur will be leaving the Army to focus on his two endeavors. And without further ado, it's all yours, Sam.
Hey, James, and everyone on the webinar, thanks for joining us. It's a privilege to be here on Academy Connect and talk about two subjects that you know, at face value don't seem that connected, but really when I look at it are actually quite similar. So the agenda, or sorry, the outline we're going to be following tonight is I'm going to talk about the Battle of Tal Afar briefly, the Tigris River Valley, the surge in 2007, 2008, and then transition into a internet marketing case study for a running coach named Bobby McGee that we worked for in my company, and then finally we'll open it up for questions. So in 2005 and 2006, I was deployed with the 3rd ACR to serve as the regimental adjutant in the Tal Afar campaign. And I know if you're a Service Academy grad, you probably took some military history. You know that Clausewitz wrote probably the most famous book on war, and Clausewitz was an adjutant, which means he's probably one of the few staff positions where he had time to watch everything and wasn't so busy doing a bunch of work. And when I was a regimental adjutant for Colonel McMaster, I served more as an aide and had a lot of time to observe what he was doing over there, and also just the battle in general, because traveling with him all the time and helping him schedule his meetings and his transportation, I had a great chance to observe what he did. And in 2006, President Bush, before the surge even started, cited the Battle of Tal Afar as a turning point in the Iraq War. And the reason a lot of people probably didn't hear about Tal Afar at the time was we had 10 news organizations from CNN, Time Magazine, and CBS. Everyone was there at the battle getting ready to cover it, but 3 days before it started, Hurricane Katrina hit. And therefore there was a big news blackout. But over the course of about 30 days, late August, early September, the regiment of probably about 3,000 plus soldiers and a large contingent, I think between 5,000 and 10,000 Iraqi police and Iraqi army, converged on the city of Tal Afar in northwestern Iraq and cleared a very hostile enemy out of the center of the city, in the ancient Sarai district, and afterwards there was a very concerted effort to consolidate those gains, because Fallujah a year earlier there was a large battle also, but the key part about the Tal Afar campaign was the consolidation of the gains afterwards. When this next slide's entitled Counterinsurgency Jedi Knights, one of the most interesting things I observed about the Tal Afar campaign was Colonel Chris Hickey, who was the squadron commander or battalion commander in charge of the city, and then Colonel H.R. McMaster, who was the regimental commander at the time. And if you see there in the middle of the screen, that's the ancient Ottoman castle in the middle of the city, where Colonel Hickey and Colonel H.R. McMaster did a lot of their political engagement, political meetings with local political leaders, and also with local tribal sheikhs who some were not quite as friendly to the Iraqi government, the U.S. forces, as others. And one of the things I really observed over there was, despite our desire as commanders in the Army to get immediate results, and usually that would be through a decisive battle, the real battle was talking to people. And in war, especially in counterinsurgency, there was a large demand for commanders' time to sit down and talk to people. And one day at the beginning of the battle, I remember sitting in the castle and with Colonel McMaster, and you see Mayor Najim in the middle of the picture here, between he and Colonel Hickey. We were sitting down having chai and talking, and outside Hellfire missiles were dropping probably within 1,000 meters of our position. There were tank rounds going off, and you could hear the Navy SEALs snipers running around literally on the castle parapets, taking shots with their sniper rifles. And we were just sitting in there having chai with the mayor of Tal Afar, and it was really interesting to me to see the intersection of violence and politics. And as Clausewitz wrote, war is simply an extension of politics by other means. And Colonel McMaster and Colonel Hickey expertly played that game, and that's really what ended up carrying the day. And Colonel Hickey was probably one of the best listeners, one of the best people I've ever seen at understanding others, and he really had a very good feel for the local people that he was dealing with, and was an amazingly perceptive person. He's probably more like the marketer. He understood his target audience perfectly. He was just a great at understanding people. And then Colonel McMaster, you see on the right, he's like the closer. He's like the sales guy who, when he sat down with Iraqis and he made his argument or he made his points, he was very persuasive. And one of the things I remember watching Colonel McMaster do was talk to the Iraqis and say, and acknowledge to them, he'd say, look, I understand why you're upset. This was when the war was going badly. And really he was making an argument for the people to join the Iraqi government in the fight against al-Qaeda at the time. He said, I understand why you're upset. America made a lot of mistakes, and we're just here to fix that. We're not here to say that we've done everything perfectly. We're not here to say we liberated you, which a lot of Americans were apt to claim. We're just here to say we're in a bad position right now, and we need your help because al-Qaeda for the long term is worse. And this was a city where they were beheading people. There were a lot of suicide car bombs in the middle of the city, which killed a lot of innocent civilians. So it was a real battle for the hearts and minds, and struggle for the support. Literally, it was like a political campaign with a lot of guns. So when I got back from Iraq in 2006, I knew that I had about a year and a half to prepare my soldiers for combat. And I knew I was going to go back as a troop commander And at that time, the casualty figures kept mounting, and that was really what we were watching as we were getting ready to redeploy. So I sat down and wrote I like to put things in writing so that it forces me to clarify my own thoughts. And I wrote a Principles of Counterinsurgency document for my soldiers. And one of the things I did was I wrote down the three main principles, which were information, intelligence, and then security operations. And I said that these three things are the main guiding principles of how we're going to operate. And I put them in that order because I believed that information, which was the political struggle or the marketing sales campaign, if you will, was the most important thing we could do. And we had a lot of tanks, we had a lot of soldiers, we had a lot of very well-trained soldiers at shooting, but I knew from watching the first campaign that the real fight was in the political struggle. And when we did go on raids or have operations, that if those things were not supporting an overall objective or a political argument that we were making, then they were just going to be really done for no good reason. So if you think about information as marketing and a raid or a combat operation as a sales operation where you're actually making a close, that's a good analogy between, for those of you who are marketing professionals, it's a good analogy. And if you're in the military, that's a good way for you to understand the difference between sales and marketing. Marketing is getting awareness, understanding your ideal customer, and then sales is actually turning those potential customers into your customers. So in 2007 and 2008, I was the troop commander in the Tigris River Valley, and we had a very interesting campaign there. And one of the things that happened when we got there was a very real appetite for change among the people. They'd been fighting us for a while. Americans were not popular, but there was also an exhaustion with the war and also a lot of discontent with Al-Qaeda. And when I got there, we started to get some rumblings that major people within the insurgency leaders wanted to talk to us. And this was a pretty controversial idea that we would sit down and talk with people that we knew had been involved in operations against American soldiers, and many of them had probably resulted in American casualties. And I actually remember talking to my squadron commander about this, and he told me that I should go ahead with talking to some of these people, and it was a controversial decision. But when we did, it ended up resulting in a huge influx of intelligence from the local population, because they could see that if we were going to listen to them and work with them, that there might be a break, if you will, in the stalemate that was going on there. And on the left-hand side, you'll see a photo of myself and my interpreter, who now lives in the United States, at a reconciliation meeting with the local population. And then that's one of my soldiers at a wedding party dancing with the locals. And then on the right-hand side, we had a large couple days of fighting about a month and a half after we got to our area, which resulted from intelligence that we got as a part of these high-level meetings with people who had been part of the insurgency who wanted to stop fighting. And on the bottom right, this is a picture of soldiers of mine that were interviewed by Stars and Stripes for actions of valor that they had during that battle. And one of them had a Bronze Star with V device, and the other ones earned Army Commendation medals with V device for the actions in that fight. And one particular, I think one of the most interesting vignettes of when I was there was when we first got to Sharqat in northern Iraq. we immediately started doing a lot of raids and operations. We were the first American unit that had stayed inside the city. The rest of the people, or the rest of the American units who'd been in the area before, had not spent a lot of time in the city just because there weren't enough soldiers to do that. So when we got there, we ended up living among the people at a local Iraqi army base in one of the neighborhoods there. And we did a raid and on the local area, and after the raid, someone came and dropped off a letter. And my executive officer, Matt McKee, actually had the brilliant idea of writing back to this local sheikh who'd written me a letter, because I didn't have time. I just told my executive officer to do that for me, and he did. And the sheikh actually came back to us and said, you know, with tears in his eyes, he said, "I cannot believe that you guys took the time to write me back," which was really interesting because I didn't think that that would have a huge impact, and it did. So my executive officer and my first sergeant, Mike Livingston, encouraged me to write a letter myself to the local population. And I did that. And it was, I guess you could call it a one-page sales letter, where I wrote a letter to the people of Sharqat, and it ended up being probably the best 30 minutes of time that I invested in Iraq was a letter to the local people wishing them a happy Eid festival, which was their version of Christmas, and saying exactly what I'd seen Colonel McMaster say, which was pretty much the argument for why they should support the Iraqi government and the American soldiers supporting them against al-Qaeda. And I acknowledged that we'd made some mistakes as the American Army had, and that we were there to fix those mistakes, and that the future looked a lot brighter with the Iraqis developing their own government rather than al-Qaeda and the vision they had for Iraq. So the Iraqi police chief, when I gave him this letter, and I'd made some copies of them for him, and I'd translated into Arabic, he actually broke down in tears and said, "I cannot believe that you guys actually finally get it." And then he ordered his entire police force to make copies of this and bring it out to the local population. And just in time for Friday prayers, the imams all got a copy, and many of them, if any of you have deployed overseas, you know that Friday prayers is when the imams will get on and shape the views of the local population by telling them what they should be thinking. And this letter made it into that communication stream, and months after I'd written this letter, local sheikhs or just people in the community would have copies of this and tell me, "Hey, thanks for the letter," as though I had actually written it for them. So that was a pretty interesting thing, and it just made me realize how powerful the political component and effective communication was in counterinsurgency, and that right there changed the dynamic between ourselves and the local population. And we had plenty of operations that we needed to conduct to clean that area out, but I think, in fact, I know that this letter had probably a larger impact than any one of those single operations we did by far. Okay, so now I'm going to transition to a discussion of internet marketing, and I'm just going to go over a case study on Bobby McGee Endurance Sports, which is a running coach that we helped, my company helped him to bring his website traffic from just over 800 visits in the month of November to over 9,000 visits in the month of December. And more importantly, in the process of that, he gathered over 1,000 email leads in less than 30 days. And at the end of this little case study, I'll do a quick comparison on some principles between counterinsurgency and marketing. Okay, so these are the results we had before Bobby had his own website. He'd been really not doing any marketing. He did not have an email list. He'd not been doing anything but just having a website up. And after this redesign of his web architecture, we call that Web 2.0 in web marketer language, which consisted of a WordPress blog website, CRM, which is Customer Relationship Management tool, based on Infusionsoft, and then a branded and integrated social media architecture. He was able to achieve those results in a pretty short amount of time. So this is how he did it. Was really a four-step process. The first step, and I put this at the bottom, is great content, and then the second step is lead capture. The third step is the sales cycle, which is what you do with leads after they enter into your system as a prospect, and the cycle that you put them through in order to deliver them to your website architecture where you're going to make the sale. And most clients that we end up consulting with usually have one or probably even two or three of these things figured out. Everyone these days in business, every serious business at least, has a website. They might not be that happy with it, but they have a website. And then most businesses, from my experience, have developed Facebook fan pages and might have Twitter accounts and LinkedIn also. So they're getting the idea on social media, but usually they're missing something in the middle in the second and third step, which is the lead capture and sales cycle, which I'll go over in this presentation in the next few slides. Okay, so the first step is great content, and great content is something that Bobby is a world-class 5-time Olympic running coach who specializes in triathlon, has a ton of content and has a large amount of professional and elite athletes who follow him, and he has a number of books published and also some DVDs that he's produced. So Bobby has great content, and I just need to emphasize that this strategy will not work unless you can produce, you don't need to have it, but can produce great content, and I'll explain how that works. Okay, so the first part of a great content strategy is developing a business Facebook page. Now, most people have a Facebook page, but what we did for Bobby was created a Facebook page that actually has technology and marketing principles applied to it so it's effective. So on the top left, you'll see a branded banner. Instead of just a picture, it has his logo, it has a photo demonstrating what he's clearly about, and then a key headline that explains his business, and then the main benefits that he provides to a customer. And that's critical just for branding and impressions so that people who stumble across your page know what you do. And then the next thing we have in here is a landing page link. Instead of bringing people to Bobby's homepage, we bring them to a landing page, which is designed to capture email leads. We have the same thing on the right here, which is part of our Facebook architecture. And then the top, we've pinned this post to the top, we have an ad for Bobby's free videos. He has free run training videos. And then finally, the main content, almost all of the content we put out on Bobby's page are videos. And these are links to videos that are hosted on Bobby's page. And the great mistake people make on Facebook is they don't put out any content that's valuable to their clients, and then more importantly, they just use Facebook as a big billboard. So they'll have a post with a little bit of a quote saying something about their industry, and then the next post will be buy our stuff. Well, sometimes that works, but we like to actually use Facebook to not sell anything, but actually just generate leads. So instead of selling your product, is offer something of value for free on Facebook, which will entice people towards signing up for your email list and join them in the conversation on Facebook rather than bringing them out of Facebook to buy something. Most people, when they go to Facebook, are not looking to go shopping. They're looking to socialize and talk to people. So if you enter the conversation with them, you have a much higher chance of getting their email address and a very low chance of getting a sale from Facebook. But if you bring them into your lead capture system, then you can nurture them. You don't need them on Facebook anymore. You can put them through your sales cycle using emails and other things. So Twitter, if you notice, the Twitter page is branded just like the Facebook page. The same principles apply, putting out great content on Twitter and then putting out the ad posts also, but not ads for sale, more so just ads for the free run videos so that you get more leads. YouTube, Bobby here, in 1 month, he had 9,582 minutes of his YouTube channel watched from putting his videos up on Facebook and then developing an email list where he sent people back to his pages to watch his videos. And the LinkedIn profile, same thing. He puts content on here, and that's better for B2B. And then step 2. So out of step 1, you go to step 2, and this is lead capture page. Most people will send clients directly to their website, but the home page is probably the worst place to send people from social media and email. What you should be doing, and what we do with Bobby, is on this one page on the left here, 47% of anyone who came to this page willingly gave Bobby their email address. And on the right-hand side here, you see the same thing for Facebook page, which is programmed into Facebook. And Bobby had an 11.5% conversion rate into his, from his website. 11.5% of the visitors, over 1,100 of them, gave him their email address willingly. So he built up a huge lead database off of using this system. And after you get people into the lead cycle, that's the conversion cycle. And the conversion cycle is it's part art and part science. The science part is having the technology right, where you have a customer relationship management tool, which is essentially a database where you have pre-scheduled programmed actions for people who enter your lead cycle. Then you have an email autoresponder, which programs emails at scheduled interviews based on what your client usually responds to well, which sends out emails to them. And then finally, you have a WordPress video blog. So from the email, they come out of your database into the email and onto a blog on your page. And that's where your videos are hosted. And then the art of this is the campaign design, writing great emails, and having amazing content. That's the creativity part of this. You can get the technology right, but if you don't have great stuff from your business that people want to consume, then this will not work. And then video blog. These are the blog pages we use for Bobby. And if you notice, when people come here from email or from Facebook, on the right, we have a lead capture system right here. For anyone who wants to download the free run training videos. And then at the end of the video, for people who watch the entire video, we have code in here which allows people to capture the email. And then going on, we have the anatomy of the email. How many of you send out emails, and what are your open rates? Bobby has an amazing open rate because Bobby has amazing content, and more importantly, we write his emails well. So you see the title here, The Secret to Running Fast, Incomplete Thoughts, and then the answers contained in the email. That compels people to open the email. Bobby has 44.5% of his emails being opened. Over 14,000 emails sent, 6,000 of them get read, and then more importantly, the emails are formatted to give just enough information that people know what's in the video and they're going to click on it. And this is actually a photo that links to your blog page. So Bobby generated 22% of his emails actually clicked through to his blog to watch his content on his page. And then finally, you have the website architecture. And this is step 4, and everyone has a website, and and I'm never happy with any of my websites completely, and I'm sure everyone out there has frustrations, but the general principles we follow with websites are using the homepage for branding, which is we'll put a good video, and you can just take a video off of YouTube and embed it on your site. Bobby has plenty of those. We have a great graphic here that tells you what Bobby does and tells you to play the video if you want to see more. And then we have a spot to download the free videos on the right, and then also a customer service number. People we found like to know that there's a real company there, and if they can call you, even if you have an answering service, it gives them a lot more comfort that you're a real business. And then below the fold, we have products listed, and we have his local blog posts, and some quotes from professional triathletes. But the key thing we found on a website is most people try and jam way too much on there, and you want to eliminate as many options as possible for people. So when they come to your website, it's very clear that we would like to get their email address, and then if they scroll down, we also have products that they can buy. But you need to make sure that every page you have has a purpose and action that the customer should take, not just information, but an actual call to action for them to use. And finally, an e-commerce checkout system. Infusionsoft, the CRM that we use, also has a built-in shopping cart. It has hosted secure checkout, and this is all integrated with their CRM and email systems, so you can have great tracking between your email list, find out how many emails it takes you to get people to go to the checkout page and buy. And Infusionsoft also has one-page checkout, which is great. I think the average customer who goes to a shopping cart, only 20 to 30% of them actually end up buying, and a lot of that is due, and that's statistically for across the industry, a lot of that is due to people having too many steps in their shopping cart or too confusing. And Infusionsoft has a very clear, easy to follow shopping cart process with multiple payment options. So the next steps for Bobby, we actually are going into a product launch sequence with him. Bobby is creating an information product for runners. It's going to be an online video course that will be like a mini training course, which will be probably $200 to $300 in price. And we're doing a market research survey, creating the product based on that survey, and then we're going to go into a product launch of that product to his email list, which now is, I think, over 2,000 people in 2 months that he started. And a lot of you might be asking, how you could do something like this, and it's not impossible. In fact, Bobby, when he started out, he had very few internal assets. Out of all the things listed here, he had almost no existing website traffic. He had no email list to speak of. The only thing Bobby had was 1,500 friends on his Facebook page who followed his running advice. And then he had no existing Twitter following and no existing LinkedIn audience. But what he did do is Bobby has a great product and he has great content. So he produced a ton of videos, put them out on Facebook, and that helped him really launch his campaign. But if you don't have a great product or cannot produce great content, this campaign would not work so well. And then finally, his external assets. Bobby had some partners, other people with large email lists who emailed on his behalf, friends in his industry, running shoe company, and other people with large email lists helped him kickstart this campaign. But he did not do any paid search advertising, which is important if you know internet marketing. All this was done off of organic work, no no paid search ads or banner ads or Facebook ads. And Bobby could have used all these, but he didn't have the budget to do it, so he didn't. But those things would have definitely accelerated this campaign a lot. And then finally, contests. We actually just ran a contest for Bobby, which I believe is still running, that's collected over 800 leads, where he's offering a free day of coaching with him and some second and third prizes. And if you run a contest using the contest software that we use and are willing to give away some of your product in exchange for the lead generation that it provides, then you can also generate a lot of leads that way. So finally, and this goes for both counterinsurgency and marketing, which are both really just exercises in influence. What I've learned between both, running counterinsurgency campaign and observing them and running marketing campaigns, is really four elementary, or I call them elemental steps to being successful. First of all, understand your audience and find out what they really want. What are their problems? Because what a lot of businesses do is they create products that they assume that their audience wants, but they haven't really found out if that's the case. And then obviously in counterinsurgency, the same thing applied. Understanding what the Iraqi people really wanted took the American Army a little while, but once we understood their real concerns and needs, it was a lot easier to help solve their problems. And that brings me to step 2, which is find out how you can help them to solve their problems and then develop a solution for them. And that really, in marketing, is where your product comes in. And if you've done your product research and you really understand your customers and what their real problems are, then that's what should drive your product creation. And if you already have a product, you can still do this and figure out how to better maybe adapt your product to better solve the problems that your customers have. And then the next step is develop a strategy to reach your audience and demonstrate you can solve their problems. And that really is where a lot of people in internet marketing that I've seen never have a strategy. They have a bunch of tools. They have a bunch of tactics, I guess you'd call it, but they don't have a strategy to figure out which one to do first. So a Facebook page, a website, an email list, all those things are tools. They're like weapons, or they're tactics that you can use, but how do you use them together in order to make things happen? How do you synchronize everything so that you have the effect that you want? And then finally, execute relentlessly. Use your strategy, but don't be bound by it, and be flexible. The information I just put out it's very valuable information. In fact, I could charge, my consulting rates would be pretty high to give this to a client, but really, the hard part is not the information what to do, but it's actually just doing it and figuring out what's working and then adjusting. And that's the last part, and anyone who's been in a military operation or campaign knows that no plan survives first contact, and you just need to continue to be really determined and just follow through on it. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. James, I wanted to give you and the audience an opportunity to ask any questions, and we'll go from there.
All right. Hey, Sam, great talk, great content, and great stuff there. Let's start off the Q&A. Dan Nolan has a couple of questions. First question, Sam. With such limitations, is it a good idea to think of Twitter as only a mechanism to drive people to the website, or even the Facebook page only?
Twitter's an interesting tool. I would say a couple years ago, Twitter was probably in many ways had a much larger audience and following than Facebook for marketers. Recently, I've seen Twitter as a tool to really just I view Twitter as like your own personal Reuters news feed. And what I have my clients do is just put out great information on Twitter that people who follow them and are interested in their products would like, and then use that to develop a steady stream of what's important. So people will go to your Twitter feed and say, okay, well, here's all the articles I should be reading. And then insert in that feed links to your lead capture page, your free video series, which Bobby has had a lot of success doing. But yeah, I would say Twitter's really just good for lead capture, and then bring them out of the social media Twitter environment and put them into a sales funnel where they're in your email system and they're constantly going back to your website. Because usually people don't buy on their first visit to your website. You have to keep bringing them back.
Very good. Another question by Dan. How does organic SEO or PPC factor into getting the average visitation to 11,000 a month?
Okay, so for Bobby, Bobby did not use any PPC, which PPC, for those of you who don't know, is paid search marketing, so Google Ads. He did not buy any paid search ads, and Bobby has probably less than 150 visits to his website a month from organic search. So he has no real SEO value right now. Now, with all the Facebook links and Twitter links and blog posts that are coming into his site, he will start to get a lot more organic search. But this is not at all SEO-driven traffic. It's all about 50% of it was from social media, and 90% of that was Facebook-driven, and the other 50% of it or so was from emails of people who were in his email system who repeatedly came back to his website because they got emails that they opened and clicked on the link and came back to his website.
All right, very good. Another question from Christopher Akins. If you already have a presence on social media, but it's not focused on your business, how do you pivot? For instance, I have a large following on Facebook, but my account is not focused on my business. How can I transition my Facebook page to focus on my website?
Okay, well, I'm assuming that he has a business website, you know, and if he does, Bobby actually had a personal Facebook page also. And he created a new Facebook fan page and asked everyone on his personal page to go to his fan page. And the Facebook fan page is much more focused on his business. And that's one way to get an immediate boost to your audience, is to use your own Facebook friends who might be interested in your business to go transition your fan page. But he really, you know, he really just used a lot. The other thing that Bobby really leveraged well was using other people's email lists who had large email lists to mail on his behalf. So if you can think about people in your industry who are friends of yours who aren't competitors, but are in the same space, who have large email lists, and you send them to a lead capture page, then you can very quickly build a large email list and a social media following.
Very good. Next question by Arthur Johnson. Any other quick email enhancement tips?
Yeah, email marketing it's really counterintuitive for a lot of people. What I find is the emails that I personally respond best to, because I'm on a lot of internet marketing and email marketing lists myself, are those that are written by people as if they were my friend. So the less, I call it graphic enhancement you can put in your email, actually the better. We put Bobby's logo and his slogan at the top of his email, but that's about it. And then just make them short and conversational, and then if you want to get them back to your website, put a big screenshot capture of the video or something that's on your blog, and then have a link to that blog page where you want to send them back to. I always try to make my emails very short, but every word is good in there. It makes them want to click on the link to come back to the blog, and make them very conversational as though you're getting it from your friend. And don't make them corporate. Personalize them, and it should always be from a person, not from a company. And that's probably the best way to look at email. And that's a short answer, but those are some very good principles to follow.
Well, Sam, that wraps up the Q&A portion. I want to thank you again. Great talk. Some great stuff here, and I know that everybody in the community thanks you for your time, your insight, and definitely your service to our country. A number of people wanted your contact info, and we'll make sure that we send out Sam's contact info. There will be a rebroadcast of Sam's talk, and we'll have actually Senator McCain's talk on the website tomorrow as well. We're only going to replay the Q&A portion from Senator McCain from last year's leadership talk. But thanks again for everybody that joined tonight, and Happy New Year's, and you guys be safe. Take care.